Extremism. Extremism is the quality or state of being extreme, or the advocacy of extreme measures or views. The term is primarily used in a political or religious sense, or it can be used to describe Manchester United fans. Now, it seems to be a vicious cycle that has been influenced by the social media world, but every detail to do with the club seems to be overblown by so many. For example, Jadon Sancho. It seems that for many, you either have to hate the 24-year-old and everything about him, or you must blast the club and leave him blameless. The latest instalment of this comes after the decision to keep Erik ten Haag at the club. The fantastic David Ornstein broke the much anticipated news after the club's end of season review. They are also planning to offer the Dutchman a new contract, and this sent a section of United fans into meltdown. Last term was one of the club's worst in recent memory, and thankfully it was saved by FA Cup glory in the final game of the season. But many believed that that shouldn't have been enough to keep the manager around. Measured takes were nowhere to be seen, with United now, as many of them put it. However, no matter where your opinion falls on the line of Ten Hag is rubbish all the way to Ten Hag is great, there were understandable reasons for keeping him. The managerial market was quite uninspiring, and the Dutchman needed to deal with a lot more than most in terms of off-field distractions. We all complained about the structure which he was working under, and now that has changed, and Ineos seem to think that he deserves a fair crack under a new and improved working environment. You can acknowledge these different things without loving the decision and still having major question marks. But for some, there is absolutely no hope for the team, despite them champagning the same manager 2 years ago. However, the other side of the coin involves the group of fans who wanted Ten Hag to stay, and are now using this opportunity to laugh at the other side. They don't seem concerned about anything other than the fact that they were right and the other side were wrong. If United's performances last season are brought up, and the amount of shots faced, the way that the team played, it's usually met with the injury excuse and trusting the process, and almost blindly thinking that things will get better no matter what, because we once had Sir Alex Ferguson, who we trusted, and he turned out great. But there's not much explanation, it's more trusting, and that's a completely fair view to have, but so is questioning whether the decision is the right one. Of course, there are people like myself in the middle. You recognise that Ten Hag has been hard done by in moments and perhaps deserves this chance to prove that he's a better manager than he's shown, but also think that there are major improvements that he needs to make, and it's not all down to the injuries. But the problem about being a Manchester United fan in the online sphere is that you are caught gravitating towards these extreme views, because that's what YouTube and Twitter is filled with. And that's not to say that this isn't okay. I mean, we're fans after all, and the emotion is what makes people fail to sit in the middle. You've either got the best player in the world or the worst player in the world, the best manager in the world or the worst manager in the world. But what makes it frustrating at Manchester United is that these opinions are always completely split within the fan base. Paul Pogba, Jadon Sancho, Erik ten Hag, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Jose Mourinho, these are all characters who were labelled as the best and worst by sections of the fan base. And the problem is that everyone seems to refuse to hear out any of the concerns or praises from the other side. It almost seems like everyone wants to sit in their perfect bubble where their opinions are not getting challenged whatsoever, and that the people that they associate with all completely agree on their terms. Other clubs do have these same biases, but for the most part they are in the same direction, shamelessly calling their player the best in the world, which is clearly not true, but the opposition of these opinions does not come within the same fan base. Just look at the way that Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes were viewed among many sections of the fan base. You either had to hate Fernandes and love Pogba, or the other way round. You weren't allowed to appreciate both players, despite them clearly being good friends and enjoy playing in the same team together. And look at Jadon Sancho's loan at Borussia Dortmund, where so many were almost hoping that he would fail there, despite him doing well, being good for the club and player, for all sides involved. But when he got to that Champions League final, everyone was scared that they might have been proven wrong, that Ten Hag might have been proven wrong. And no matter where you sit in your opinion of Jadon Sancho, it's just another example of different sections of the United fan base just being completely at odds. Of course, this is one of the things that comes with having one of the largest fan bases in the world, with a team that has been largely unsuccessful for over a decade. Opinions are far more split, but that does not necessarily mean that it's not a pain to watch happen with different players or managers every month. Now quickly go down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts on Erik ten Hag staying. What positives can you see of it? What negatives can you see on it? And let me know if you think I'm being too harsh about this fan view and the extremism of different fans. Should it be expected in the modern footballing world? Let me know in the comments below. But I think one of the problems that United will face next season, and it happens over and over again in these different situations, is that the other side, the fans who didn't want Ten Hag, the fans who wanted Jadon Sancho to return, they're all waiting for the one thing: to laugh back. Now this is the problem with these two sides going at each other, is that it's an endless cycle where one section is laughing because they have been proven right, but the other section are always waiting in the wings, waiting for Ten Hag to get sacked, mainly so that they can then laugh and say that they were right. And Ineos have clearly taken this kind of thing into consideration, because reports have said that they have taken into account the fan view, the Old Trafford view, and the Old Trafford fan view is quite clearly in favour of Ten Hag. There were major fan groups releasing statements in support of the manager and telling Sir Jim Ratcliffe, we want him to stay. Now if Ineos decided to go the opposite way and get rid of Ten Hag and bring in a new manager, maybe an unproven manager, do you think the fan base, who are so happy now that Ten Hag is staying, would have welcomed this manager with open arms? Potentially, but maybe not entirely. So if there are difficulties faced next season, expect the situation to be flipped, and expect those who are very upset right now to be basking in the glory of them being proven right. And then we'll go through the process all over again. And this everlasting cycle just doesn't make sense to me. Let me know what you think.